a number of things today. We did the competition committee report. We voted on a couple rules. We had a lot of discussion. The main discussion really centered around what we had in the book under the player safety initiatives and topics. We had a section and then a clarification of the rule on lowering your head. And so the coaches were most vociferous about, hey, listen, this needs to change. The tactic needs to change, and we're ready for change. So we decided we would rewrite that point of emphasis and rewrite that clarification into a plain rule, and we did. We put it into plain rule proposal number 11. We used the language that we had in the book, and we basically rewrote Article 8 on the crown of the helmet and used the same language on lowering your head. For us, this is a pretty significant change. This is not situational protection. So in the past, whether it's the college targeting rule or whether it's our defenseless player rule, which has a lot of similarities, it's situational protection. In this, we're basically getting to a technique that is just too dangerous for both the player doing it and the player that's getting hit, both. And what's really helped us a lot is in the last 2 to 3 years, we have really gotten better data, and better information on injuries, better engineering work to understand collision angles, and better video. And I think what was apparent to the committee this year when we watched a lot of tape and met with the doctors is that we needed a change. And we needed a change in this area because we've got a good injury reduction strategy that starts with the simple use of helmets and using the proper helmets. Has some things we want to do in preseason training camp, but the majority of it sits in this one technique because there's so many hits that we saw where a player lowered his head, delivered the hit, and either hurt himself or hurt the person he was contacting. So we felt it was time for a change of this magnitude. We showed it to the coaches. We showed them the tape. We have showed it to the coaches subcommittee, all of which endorsed it. We showed it to the NCAA, which I think we will impact over time, because I think our object would be to make our rules very similar to their rules from a terminology standpoint so that we can teach it all the way down. The crown of the helmet rule was really what was intended here, but got way too narrow and had too many requirements to it. This has very little requirement to it. This is simply if you lower your head to initiate contact and you make contact with an opponent, it's a foul. The reason the language is after disqualified is just a period is because we've got some things to work on. The coaches were pretty strong in the room today that in certain of these instances, there should be automatic ejection on the field. That's going to require us some work with them to understand language on what are the circumstances and what aren't. Would New York therefore automatically review? Probably, using what the college technique has been. We would probably go to that. But we need to kind of flush that all the way out and understand it. And we didn't want to just go into a drafting mode today when we're going to pass a rule of this magnitude and not have the time to hear from the coaches and really hear from all the clubs on what they want and then, again, what we can do in New York and do effectively. So that's kind of the background of where we are and what we did.